Lesson 4.3, Graphing Linear Non-Proportional Relationships Using Slope and Y-Intercept. Example 1, A. Graph y is equal to 2/3 times x minus 1. Y is equal to 2/3 times x minus 1. Step 1. The y-intercept is b is equal to -1. The y-intercept is -1. So plot the point that contains the y-intercept 0, -1. That means x is 0 when y is -1. Okay, so the very first point you're going to plot is the y-intercept. This is the y-axis, and the y-intercept is a -1. So here, I'm at 0 on the y-axis. -1 is right there. So this is the first point you're going to plot. So this is the first point you're going to plot, right here. And at this point, x is 0 and y is a -1. X is 0, y is a -1. This is your y-intercept. Step 2. The slope is m is equal to 2/3. Use the slope to find a second point. So once again, the slope is 2/3. Remember, slope is rise over run, rise over run, y over x, rise over run, y over x. So you start at your y-intercept and you count. The rise is a +2. The y value is a +2, so we should go up 2. So 1, 2. The run is a +3. So now you go in the x direction, a +3. 1, 2, 3. And right there is where your next point is located. Once again, rise over run. Slope, 1, 2, over 3, 1, 2, 3. That's your next point. Now, if you had to get another point, you would go 1, 2, that's the rise, and then 1, 2, 3. Right there would be your next point. Once again, rise, 1, 2, run, 1, 2, 3. So your next point will be right there. And notice how that point is directly on that line. Now, if you had to go in the other direction, you would go 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, right there. Now, notice when you're going in the other direction, you're going 1, 2, that's a -2. And then you're going 1, 2, 3. That's a -3. All right, but now what's a negative divided by a negative? A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So you still end up with a +2 over a +3. But now you know how to count the slope in both directions. All right, let's go through it once again. The first thing you graph is your y-intercept. All right, and what's your y-intercept? Your y-intercept is that -1. Don't forget, y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. That's your m, and that's your b. Your b is at -1. Okay, so once again, my y-intercept was a -1. That's the first thing I graphed. This is my y-axis. The y-intercept should be right on the y-axis. That's what the word intercept means. It crosses the y-axis at -1. Now, once I plot that point, the next thing I'm going to do is to count my slope. Rise over run, 2/3. The rise, 1, 2. The run, 1, 2, 3. +2 means I go up on the y. +3 in the x for x, positive is this way. If I had to get another point, I would go 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Right there would be my next point. Once again, 1, 2, rise, 1, 2, 3, run. All right, so the line will go out that way. Now, if I had to go back in the other direction, which you will have to do, then it would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Now, this takes place just using common sense, really, because in order for it to be in a straight line, you can't go this way. You know it has to be in the same direction. So 1, 2, that's a negative 2. And then 1, 2, 3. That would be a negative 3, which ends up being a positive 2 over 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, right there. If I had to get another point, I would go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, right there. All that would be on a straight line. All right, and that's how you plot using slope, using the y-intercept, and slope. Y-intercept, slope. All right, now on our next problem, we're going to show you how, when slope is written with a negative number, how slope can be written 3 ways to be interpreted 2 ways. Now here we got, it says graph y is equal to negative 5 over 2 times x plus 3. Now we know that our y-intercept is a positive 3. Positive 3. That means when x is 0, y is 3. That's our y-intercept. And we know that's the first thing we gotta graph. That positive 3 there. Okay, but right now I want you to focus on this negative 5 over 2. Now say I was written with the negative in the middle. That's telling you that when you're counting your slope, you can count your slope in 2 different ways. You can count it using the y as a negative 5 and the x as a positive 2, or using the using the y as a positive 5 and then the x as a negative 2. Let's repeat that once again. The negative is in the middle, but it can be interpreted as negative 5 for y and a positive 2 for x, or a positive 5 for y and a negative 2 for x. We're going to show you that in a couple of seconds. But for right now, write this down and make sure this is in your notes. Positive 5, negative 5, that's my run. That's my rise. Negative 5 is my rise. Positive 2 is my run. In this case, positive 5 is my rise and negative 2 is my run. Okay, now a couple more things you have to be aware of before we get started. Look at the y-axis. If you notice, they're counting by 2s, even though they're not showing you all of the numbers. So here, they're saying 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Once again, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That also means that when you're counting, you got to account for all the single digits also. So really, this is 0, 1, 2. Note 1 is midway. So 0, 1, 2, 3, that's midway. 4, 5 is midway. 6, 7 is midway. 8, 9 is midway. 10, 11 is midway. 12. And then look on the x-axis. So here they're going 2, 4, 6, 8. So that means that it must be 1 midway, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. All right. Now we can begin to graph. All right. So now step 1 is we're going to graph the y-intercept. All right. And the y-intercept is 3. So I'll go right here. I'm at 0. So that's 1, 2, 3. Right there is where the 3 is. That's my y-intercept. Now I'm going to count my slope. And the first one I'm going to do is y is a positive 5. That's the rise over a negative 2. So I'm at 3 and I got to go up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a positive 5. Now my run is a negative 2. So that means I got to go 1 in that direction because it's by 2. So I can go 1, 2, or just simply 2 because they're counting by 2s. All right. So that's how I got to that point right there. All right. So once again, my y-intercept was 3. So I go 1, 2, 3. That's my y-intercept right there. and my slope is 5 over negative 2. So my rise, y over x, or rise over the run. So my rise then is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my run is going to be a negative 2 that goes in this direction. So from here to here is 2. Or for those that are confused, 1 is midway and 2 is there, negative 2. So that's my slope going that direction. Now, I want to give a complete line. So it means I have to go in the other direction. So the other way I can write the slope is negative 5 over a positive 2. Now look what this does. I still start at my y-intercept of being 3. Now I go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where I'm at. And now I got to go in a positive 2 direction. Positive 2. So that means I go 1 that way, 2. Once again, 0, 2. For those that are confused, 0, midway is 1, and then 2. And then that's how I get my next point. All right? And that's how we count our slope. Remember now, we graph the y-intercept first, and then we start counting the slope. And when the slope is written with a negative sign in the middle, that means the slope can be interpreted 2 ways. 5 over negative 2 in this case, or negative 5 over positive 2. And to give you one more example of that, if they were to give you something like a negative, let's say 3 over 4. Once again, the negative side is in the middle. That means that slope can be written as negative 3 over 4 or 3 over negative 4. Because you have to count that you're going to count in 2 directions, the upward direction and the downward direction. Okay, that concludes example number 1